Do you feel like you keep forgetting every new word you're trying to learn? Well, I did too, until I found easy science-backed techniques that anyone can use for any language. So in this video, I'm going to show you the proven steps to make vocabulary learning simple, effective, and long-lasting. Let's start with a simple principle that not only makes learning new words easier, it also sets you up for long-term success. So I am going to level with you. There is a whole field of people studying the science of memory and specialists in language learning who focus on vocabulary. We will be covering strategies that have been proven to work. Don't you worry about that. But sometimes it is easy to get a bit lost with all of that. You are human and not a lab experiment. And so you shouldn't try and treat your brain like a filing cabinet and cram in as many words as possible. Learning new words is important, but quite quickly, what seems like an efficient method like flashcards, for example, which could be a great supplement to your learning if you like them, can end up being the only thing you do to learn the language, as you struggle to keep on top of them alongside your other daily commitments. And that's when people burn out and give up, because they stop doing the things that interested them in the language in the first place. But being a human, rather than a filing cabinet, there are psychological factors that are so much more fundamental than trying to hack your memory. Importantly, there's evidence that sustained engagement is way more important than short-term maximum efficiency. So researchers Dernier and Yoshioda said that the key to success in language learning is to engage learners in sustained, motivated learning behavior over time. So before you worry about cramming in as many words into your head as you possibly can, focus on exposure to the language at a level you can generally understand. Now, if you know 0 words in the language, in order to understand it, you can rely on translations or even gestures, tones, or drawings if it's specific content made for learners. But here's where the magic comes in. Exposure to content, particularly stuff you actually enjoy, will start to trigger emotions. And that spark can help the brain with storing the words because they feel important. Compare that with just staring at a list of words or phrases with no real meaning to you. It is a lot harder for the brain to care, let alone remember anything. So what's actually going on here is that your brain's emotional center, the amygdala, lights up. And that helps the memory center, the hippocampus, do its job better. So the more you enjoy what you're doing, the more likely those words are to stick. That's why finding content that you genuinely like is so much more beneficial than finding something supposedly at the right level for you. Be it reaction content, travel shows, maybe even the geopolitics of sand. Genuinely, that is a thing and it is fascinating. Anyway, you can always use tools like Language Reactor or LingoPie to understand whatever the content is and look up words and phrases that you don't understand. And it's honestly better to put a bit of effort into something that you're interested in than trying to trudge through endless beginner material or feel stuck on the flashcard treadmill. Taking time to find a content creator or resource that sparks your interest in your target language is a game changer and basically unlocks the language for you. Suddenly, that language becomes so much more important, and that tells your brain to make more connections with what it's exposed to. So using emotion is a great first step, but how do you guarantee that you'll remember words? And how do you put that into practice? Well, I actually have a secret weapon that I'm going to share with you. So when I first started with Spanish, I didn't focus on reviewing anything, and I just got daily exposure, so videos, podcasts, and then eventually reading. And the most common words popped up again and again, helping me pick them up naturally. Now, I'm not saying that is the only way to learn or the most efficient, but honestly, sticking with it was super easy, and now I speak Spanish. So don't feel you have to try and burn yourself out by actively trying to memorize every single word. I saw lots of words in context, and that was enough at the time. But here's something important. Repetition is one of the biggest factors in whether you actually remember new words. So as Paul Nation says, a word needs to be met in context numerous times before it has a chance of being learned. That's because our brains are designed to forget things that don't seem important. Have you ever met someone and then instantly forgotten their name? At the time, your brain is often more focused on other things and doesn't prioritize it. So if you want to pick up a word, you need to try and find a way to expose yourself to it multiple times. That way, every time your brain sees it, it is a reminder, this is important, and then it's more likely to stick. So you can do this naturally like I do. So I try and read a chapter a day in Spanish. and I come across the same words over and over. Each time I see them, they get reinforced without much effort. But you can also use tools like flashcards as long as you keep them manageable, and then ditch any cards that you don't need anymore. And then personally, I've been enjoying using notebooks to jot down chunks or phrases that I want to put into my active vocabulary. But here's what I'm calling my secret weapon that I've never heard anyone talk about, apart from in my course, Fluent Foundations, available now, link in the description. The problem with normal flashcards is that they can spiral out of control if you can't find enough time to review them every day. And my notebook is no good if it just sits in my pocket. That's why I started using an app called Audio Flashcards. It's audio only, so you're not actually staring at your phone or a stack of cards, and you can use it on the go. To use it, I record the English for the phrase that I want, and then I leave a pause so that the future me has time to actively recall the phrase. And then I record the Spanish, leave a little gap for me to say it out loud in the future. And then I say the Spanish again, followed by another gap. So for every card, I will have said that phrase out loud 3 times. But here's the best part. The app has an autoplay mode, so you can review everything hands-free whilst you're driving, walking the dog, cleaning, blah, 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 whatever it is. And I make sure to say the words out loud, even if it's just quietly under my breath so that people in the street don't think I'm mad. If you want as well, there's also a casual mode, so you can just keep cycling through your recordings again and again if you really want. Now, I'm not sponsored or anything, I just think it's useful. There is also a text-to-speech option if you don't want to record your own voice in your target language. But I do have another trick up my sleeve that has changed my learning more than any app ever could. So let me break it down so that you can easily put it into action. This is now a fundamental part of how I'm learning new words at the minute. I found it so powerful, and you can pretty much do this at any stage in your journey. So a tutor that I'm using was trying to get me to use some more varied connectors in Spanish. So like in English, where we would use however, therefore, on the other hand, all of that. Staring at a page of connectors that I could use actually isn't that helpful. And I could read it again and again and again, but it's not a hugely efficient or meaningful way of trying to learn them. And so I've been trying to take a far more efficient approach. Firstly, my tutor's advice was to start using the equivalent for the ones that I would use in English and then branch out from there. I've been writing them in my little notebook and then using that to casually reread them and talk to myself about different topics. From there, I've then made the audio flashcards to review them daily, and I can do that hands-free whilst I'm walking the dog or driving somewhere. And then I make a point of actively trying to use them when I journal every day, and that reinforces them way more than you would think. After that, I then make a point of saying them either to myself or talking to an AI or even back to my tutor. And because I'm trying to use these phrases all the time, I keep noticing them in content that I'm enjoying. So the more ways that I use a word or phrase, be that writing, speaking, or even listening, the stronger the connection with it becomes. It's like meeting someone again and again. The more times you see them, the easier it is to remember their name. So the next time that you want to add new words or phrases to your active vocabulary, try mixing it up. So write them down, say them out loud, drop them into conversations or even in your journal, and you'll be amazed at how much more they stick. And personally, I find that way more interesting than just staring at some flashcards. So focusing on enjoyment and variety has helped me pick up words without feeling like I'm studying. If you want to do the same, then check out this video here where I show you how to use the power of reading to supercharge your vocabulary.